Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So in the last class, I explained about the principle of an DC generator. So here, when this conductor, so let us see these conductors B and A. So A and B are two conductors which form a single turn. Okay. So here, let us consider the conductor. This coil is rotating in clockwise direction. See here. So are you able to see the direction in which the coil is rotated? Yeah, is it clockwise or anti-clockwise? So here the coil is, yeah, yes. Hello?
Clockwise, sir.
Yes, okay. So here the coil is rotated in clockwise direction. Now here when the coil is rotated in clockwise direction, so what will be the direction of the conductor B? This is the conductor B. It will be moving up. And what about the conductor B? It will be moving down. So here, according to Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction, so when a conductor cuts the magnetic field, an EMF is induced in the conductor. The direction of the induced EMF is obtained by Fleming's right-hand rule. Fleming's right-hand rule. So here, if you apply Fleming's right-hand rule, you can see here, this is the direction. So here, you take your right hand and stretch the thumb, forefinger, and middle finger perpendicular to each other. So here, if you place your forefinger in the direction of the field, thumb in the direction of the motion of the conductor, here forefinger in the direction of the field, thumb in the direction of the motion of the conductor, then here middle finger gives the direction of induced EMF, hence the current. So here B, in this B you are going to get this current. Okay, similarly if you apply the Fleming's right hand rule, so you are going to get the direction of the current in conductor A as like this. Okay, is it clear? Okay, now let us see the direction of the current through the external RL. So here, now here you can see here, let us take S1, S2 are the two slip rings. And here the conductor B is always connected to slip ring 1. The conductor A is always connected to slip ring 2. Is it clear? Now here, the brushes, you can take the brushes B1 and B2. Now here, you can see the direction of the current. See here, this is the direction of the current. So the direction of the current is upwards. In this diagram, you can see it is upwards. Now let us see here. This, let us take this as the let us take here this one. So here, this is the direction. So here, now here you can see here, A is always connected to S1, B is always connected to S2. Now here, this is the here. So here, upwards. See here, wait, just wait. Okay. Now here, after 180 degrees, you can see here the position of A and B gets interchanged, and here the direction of the current also reverses. So here you are going to get the direction of the induced EMF as sinusoidal. So here you can see here, it is considered after 90 here in this position, the coil will be cutting the maximum lines of force. Now here, when it completes 90 degrees rotation, so let us take here, if this is the position of the conductors, the conductor will be moving, the conductor will be moving parallel to the lines of force. So induced EMF will be 0. Now when it completes the 90 degrees rotation, here if the conductor positions are like this, if the plane of the conductor, if the plane of the coil is parallel to lines of force, So here the magnetic field cut by the conductors will be maximum, and you are going to get the maximum EMF again in this position. Again induced EMF becomes 0, and again at 270 degrees here. At 270 degrees, you can see here the maximum negative, and you can see the direction of the conductors changes, but the position of the brushes and slip rings remains the same. So the direction of the current changes. Like this, you are going to get a sinusoidal voltage, but we want direct voltage. So DC voltage we require. So we are getting alternating voltage. We require a constant voltage. Now here for this, we are going to replace these slip rings by split rings. So here when the here see here. So here it the split ring. This is split ring, right? Here you can see split ring. So instead of slip rings, we are going to replace the slip ring with a split ring, and here after every 180 degrees, you can see here the contact with the, so here B1 is with C1, B2 is with C2, the contact, you can see the contact. After 180 degrees rotation, you can see here B1 will come in contact with C2, and B2 will come in contact with C1, and here as the direction of the current changes in the conductor, we are going to have the change in the position of the contacts. So here you are going to get the voltage as like this voltage you are going to get. So which can be filtered, and you are going to get a constant voltage. So this is DC generator. So here this is a single loop which contains only two conductors. So you have only two segments. Only two conductors means we have only two segments. But in general, we are going to have many number of turns. We are going to have many number of turns. So here, this you are going to have more segments. So which is called as commutator. If the split ring has more segments, here only two segments, C1, C2. So it is two segments. If you have more segments, it is called as commutator. So the split ring, if it has more segments, it is called as commutator. You can see the diagram of the commutator. See here, this is the commutator which has more segments and more number of coils. So we can increase the voltage and we can increase the current. If the conductors are connected in series, we are going to have the increase in voltage. If the conductors are connected in series, we are going to have an increase in current. So we are going to have series parallel combination of conductors for getting the required voltage and current rating. Next, coming to the action of commutator. So if somehow connection of the coil side to the external load is reversed at the same instant, the current in the coil side reverses. See here, if somehow connection in the coil side to the external load is reversed at the same instant, the current in the coil side reverses. The current through the load will be direct current. This is what a commutator does. So commutator is nothing but a mechanical rectifier. Okay, mechanical rectifier. So generally, by using a diode, we are going to rectify the voltage. But here, using a commutator, we are rectifying the AC voltage. So here, the commutator is also called as mechanical rectifier. See here, if a load is connected across the ends of the loop, then alternating current will flow through the load. The alternating voltage generated in the loop can be converted into direct voltage by a device called commutator. In fact, a commutator is a mechanical rectifier. So this is the explanation. So here figure shows a commutator having two segments, C1 and C2. It consists of a cylindrical metal ring. So we are going to have a metal ring cut into two halves. or segments C1 and C2 respectively, separated by a thin sheet of mica. So here this mica acts as insulation. Thin sheet of mica, this thin sheet of mica acts as insulation between these two segments. So here the commutator is mounted on but insulated from the rotor shaft. So here from the rotor shaft, not only the armature conductors but also the commutator is also insulated. Okay. So there is a connection between the armature conductors and the commutator, but there will be insulation from the rotor shaft. Is it clear? Here, what is the rotor shaft? So here, where we going to connect our appliances, which require mechanical load, mechanical power. See here. So here, this is the shaft, rotor shaft. To this shaft, we are going to connect the equipment which is to be rotated. Generally, so here this is a generator. Here we are going to apply the mechanical power. We are going to rotate this shaft. So we are going to rotate the shaft and we are going to get the voltage across the terminals. A are the terminals of the armature. Now here, if you apply DC voltage to this one, we are going to get the mechanical power. So here the same machine can be used as generator and also motor. So here if you take a DC machine, that's why it is called as DC machine. So if you apply mechanical power, we are going to get a DC voltage. If you rotate this rotor, you are going to get the DC voltage. Suppose if you apply the DC voltage, we are going to get a mechanical power output. If you apply DC voltage, the shaft starts rotating. So here the same machine can be used as both as a generator and a motor. A DC machine can be used both as a generator and a motor. Here the commutator is mounted on but insulated from the rotor shaft. Now here you can see the ends of the coil sides are connected to the segments C1 and C2 respectively. Two stationary carbon brushes. So here, whatever you have seen, the two carbon brushes, the brushes are made up of carbon. So here the B1, B2 are the brushes are made up of carbon. So here you can see carbon brushes in the equipment like food mixer. At your home you will be using food mixers. In that also you can find a brushes, carbon brushes. So the two stationary carbon brushes rest on the commutator to conduct current to the external load. Okay, we are going to conduct current to external load by means of brushes. Next. So the purpose of brushes is to ensure electrical connection between the rotating commutator and the stationary external load circuit. So here, this is the purpose of the brushes. And the purpose of brushes is to ensure electrical connection between the rotating commutator and stationary external load circuit. So let us take a multipole machine. So multipole machine. 4-pole machine is called as multipole machine. So multipole machine having as many brushes as the number of poles. Okay. So for example, 4-pole machine has 4 brushes and 2 brushes will be connected in parallel. Opposite brushes will be connected in parallel. Okay. As you go around the commutator, the successive brushes have positive and negative polarities. Okay, one positive, another negative, positive, negative. Like this, you are going to have the polarities. So the brushes having the same polarity are connected together, so that we have two terminals, namely positive terminal and the negative terminal. Okay, if you have four poles, you are going to have four brushes. In that four brushes, one will be positive, negative, positive, negative. Total two positive uh, polarities will be there, two negative polarities will be there. So we are going to connect the uh, brushes having the same polarities. Okay, so brushes having the same polarities are connected together, so that we have two terminals, namely the positive terminal and the negative terminal. Next, as I told you, the conductors are connected in series and parallel combination. So based upon that, the windings are of two types. So let us take here types of armature winding. See here, the armature conductors are connected in series, parallel, okay, series combination and parallel combination. The conductors are being connected in series so as to increase the voltage, and in parallel paths so as to increase the current. There are two types of DC armature windings, namely wave winding, lap winding. So wave winding and lap winding. These are the two types of DC armature windings. So here, so these are the types of armature windings. So you have two types, wave winding and lap winding. So coming to wave winding. In this arrangement, the armature coils are connected in series through commutator segments in such a way that the armature winding is divided into two parallel paths. So here we have only two parallel paths, irrespective of the number of poles of the machine. So two parallel paths means, so you are going to get more voltage. See here, if there are Z armature conductors, Z number of armature conductors, total number of armature conductors is equal to Z. Then Z by 2 conductors will be in series in each parallel path. So let us take these. So here, positive brush, negative brush, okay. So here this is the external electrical load, okay, external electrical load. Now here, positive brush means current will be coming from positive terminal, goes close to the RL. Next comes to this negative terminal, negative brush. So here the current gets divided into IA by 2 and IA by 2. IA is the armature current. So armature current gets halved and it will flow through this Z by 2 and Z by 2. Now here you can see Z by 2 conductors are in series. This is another Z by 2 conductors are in series. Total number of conductors is equal to Z by 2 plus Z by 2, which is equal to Z. Next again here, this is the simple diagram. So to understand how a wave winding will be, so the total number of armature conductors are divided into two halves. So here the armature coils connected in series through commutator segments in such a way that armature winding is divided into two parallel paths. So the winding is divided into two parallel paths. You can see here. This is one parallel path, this is another parallel path. These are the two parallel paths. Next, coming to the lap winding. In this arrangement, the armature coils are connected in series through commutator segments in such a way that the armature winding is divided into as many parallel paths as the number of poles of the machine. Suppose if you have two parallel paths, if you have two poles, two parallel paths. If you have four poles, four parallel paths. Okay. Here, the number of parallel paths depend upon the poles, poles of the machine. But here, so irrespective of the number of poles, So here you are going to have two parallel paths irrespective of the number of poles. But here in a lap winding, you can see here the number of parallel paths is equal to the number of poles. Next, number 78. Okay. Suppose if there are Z conductors and P poles, then there will be P parallel paths, each containing Z by P conductors. Okay. Each parallel path will carry a current of ZA by P, where IA is the, so here IA by P, where IA is the total armature current. So let us take a 4-pole machine. So here, if you have 4 poles, you are going to have 4 parallel paths. So this is drawn for 4 poles. So in general, you can so suppose if you have P number of poles, you are going to have P parallel paths. So like this, you are going to have if you have P number of poles, you are going to have P parallel paths. So let us go to the construction. So construction details of DC machines. So a DC machine. So you can see here a DC machine. So construction of a DC machines. So DC machine, either motor or generator, the construction will be the same. Construction will be the same. So the same DC machine can be used as a motor or a generator depending upon the type of input. If you give electrical power input, the machine works as motor. If you give mechanical power input, the machine works as generator. So a DC generator, a DC machine essentially consists of stationary membrane. So here stationary member called the stator. So just like a induction motor, also here the stationary part is called as stator. Stationary member is called the stator, and a rotating member called the rotor. So some part of the machine will be stationary, some part of the machine will be rotating. So the stationary part is called the stator, and the rotating part is called the rotor. An uniform air gap is present between the stator and rotor, through which magnetic flux is set up in the rotor. See here. So here you can see a uniform air gap. So here air gap will be there between the stator and the rotor. So here 4-pole DC machine. Let us see the construction of a 4-pole DC machine. So here you have 4 poles: North Pole, South Pole, North Pole, South Pole. So total 4 poles. 2 are North Poles and 2 are South Poles. So here you can see here the North Pole and South Pole are arranged alternatively. So North Pole, South Pole, North Pole, South Pole. Okay. So let us see these parts. See here, what is the stator? So here, outer frame, yoke. Outer frame is called as yoke. So stator consists of outer frame, and here you are going to have the poles. These are the poles which are connected to the stator. On the poles, you are going to have pole winding. So here, these are the windings, right? So here, you are going to have these windings. So here, these are the windings. So here, you are going to have a coil like this. So coils. So due to these coils, you are going to get the magnetic field. And here you have the pole shoe. This pole shoe will support this winding. So here this pole shoe will support this winding. If the pole shoe is not there, the winding may fall down. So here this pole shoe will support this winding. Also here this pole shoe will spread this magnetic flux uniformly. So here uniformly the magnetic flux is spreaded by using this pole shoe. So let us see the these parts one by one. So here stationary stator consists of yoke or the outer frame, field poles, pole shoe, and the field winding or the pole winding. So generally the on the poles you are going to have this winding. This winding is called field winding. Next, these are the interpoles. So interpoles are used for interpoles are used to reduce the sparking at the brushes. Next, coming to the rotor. So rotor. So here rotor means rotating part. Now here it consists of, see here, first, so rotor shaft. You can see the rotor shaft. This is the rotor shaft. So you have the commutator segments. So armature winding. So armature conductors. So here on the rotor you are going to have the slots. In the slots you are going to have the armature conductors here. So armature conductors. Armature conductors are placed in the slots. This is the slot. Armature conductors are placed in the slots. So next you have the commutator segments. You can see the commutator segments. This is the cross section view of a DC machine. And here you have these legs. So let us see these parts one by one. So here stator. Stator is the stationary part of a DC machine. In case of DC machines, the field windings are mounted on a stator. In case of DC machine, the field windings are mounted on the stator. Let us see this one. So here, next, the stator mainly consists of yoke or the magnetic frame, that is outer frame. You have the field poles, field windings, interpoles, etc. Yoke. What is the purpose of the yoke? The outermost frame of the DC machine is called as yoke. It forms as a part of the magnetic circuit of a DC machine. So here magnetic. So how the lines of force will flow? See here. So north pole. So lines of force will be coming out of. So like this. So here the magnetic circuit will be completed like this. Okay. So lines of force. Okay. So coming out of the north pole, so lines of force, this is the direction of the lines of force. So like this, you are going to have the magnetic flux. So coming to here, so here, this is the magnetic flux. So here, like this, here also you can draw this one. So here, so here, so what is the purpose of the yoke here? I've done only one line of force. Generally, you are going to have more lines of force. So like this, you hear. So the purpose of the yoke, the outermost frame, the outermost frame of a DC machine is called as yoke. It forms a part of the magnetic circuit of a DC machine. So the core is made up of magnetic material like iron or steel. Next, choice of the material. It is made up of cast iron in small machines, but for large machines, yoke is made up of cast steel or rolled steel. So finally, the yoke is made up of iron or steel. Next, what are the functions? Functions of the outer frame or yoke. It provides mechanical support for the poles. So here, poles will be fixed to this yoke. So it provides mechanical support for the poles. So here, you can see here. So here, these are the field poles. Why they are called field poles means due to them only we are going to get the magnetic field. So here the field poles. So here the yoke provides support for the field poles. It provides mechanical support for the poles. It acts as a protecting cover for the whole machine. That the insulating materials get protected from harmful atmospheric elements like moisture, dust, and various gases like SO2, acidic fumes, etc. So here this protecting cover. It acts as a protecting cover. So you have the insulation between the rotor winding, that is armature winding, and the armature. So here you have seen the commutator is mounted on the shaft, but it is insulated from the shaft by use of insulating material. So here this yoke will provide the outer cover and protects the insulation. Okay, so it acts as a protecting cover for the whole machine, that the insulating materials get protected from harmful atmospheric elements like moisture. So if there is a moisture, the insulating properties get reduced. Dust and various gases like SO2, acidic fumes, etc. Next, it carries the magnetic flux produced from one pole to the other. Okay, so here these are the functions of the outer frame. First one is it supports mechanical, it provides mechanical support for the poles. Second one, it acts as a protecting cover for the whole machine, and it provides protection for the insulating material. It acts as a, it carries the magnetic flux produced from one pole to another. Okay, next, field poles. So here each field poles consist of two parts, namely here pole course and the pole shoe. So here if you see a field pole consists of pole core. On this winding will be there. So here there will be winding on this core. So like this, you are going to have a winding. So like this winding you are going to have, and on the pole core you have this winding, and you have this pole shoe. So here pole cores are made up of cast steel or cast iron. You can have cast steel or cast iron, and usually not laminated. So here the pole pills are usually not laminated. So next, pole shoe have a curved surface. So pole shoes have a curved surface like this. So here, see here, the pole shoes having a curved surface are made of cast steel sheet laminations. So here, usually this pole core is not laminated, but pole shoes are laminated. Pole shoes are laminated. So here the thickness of these laminations will be 1 mm. Okay, and these are insulated from one another by varnish. So here the whole shoe is made up of laminations, and the laminations are insulated from one another by varnish. Next, so what are the functions of this pole core and the pole shoe? Let us see here. Pole core, pole core, pole core basically carries a field winding. So as I shown you, pole core carries a field winding. So which is necessary to produce the flux. So due to the field winding only, you are going to produce the flux. If you pass current through this winding, so you are going to get a magnetic flux. Next, it directs the flux produced through air gap to armature core to the next pole. Next, pole shoes enlarges here. Coming to the pole shoe. So what is the use of pole shoe? Pole shoe enlarges the area of a magnetic core to come across the flux. Okay, this is the main use of the pole shoe, producing better induced EMF shape. To achieve this, the pole shoe has been given a particular shape. In modern design, the complete pole core and pole shoes are built with thin laminations of annealed steel. So by using annealed steel, we are going to have the laminations both for the pole core and the pole shoe. So here, so in modern design, complete pole cores and pole shoes are built to thin laminations of annealed steel. So which are riveted together under hydraulic pressure as shown in here. See here, this is the diagram. So here, pole shoe and pole core, you can see both are laminated. So laminated pole core, and here laminated pole shoe. So you are going to have this winding on this pole core. Next, so here it should be noted that pole shoes must be always laminated in order to avoid the eddy current losses caused by the fluctuation in flux distribution on the pole shoes. So this is about the pole shoes. Next, coming to the field winding. So winding, what is meant by winding? Copper wire is wound on the pole core. It is called as winding. So here the field winding is wound on the pole core in a definite direction. Okay, the direction is important to form the north pole and south pole. Okay, so the field windings are simply coils, consist of less number of turns of copper thick copper wire for a series field winding, for a series field machine. This I am going to cover in detail. Okay, while a shunt field machine is have a more number of turns with a thin wire. This will come again. Okay, one on each pole core. So this is about the field winding. Next, the field winding carries a DC current, okay, due to which a stationary pole and necessary flux is produced. So this is the main function of the field winding. So what is the main function of this field winding is the field winding carries a DC here. Field winding carries a DC current. Field winding carries a DC current. So here we are going to pass a DC current through the field winding. So due to which stationary pole and necessary flux are produced. So you are going to have the poles, north pole, south pole. Okay. So by the passage of this DC current through the field winding, so you are going to have the formation of the poles, north pole, south pole, north pole, south pole, like that, and a necessary flux is produced, and the flux is distributed uniformly and spread more across the armature by use of pole shoes. Next, choice of the materials. So it has to carry current, hence obviously made up of some conducting material. So aluminum or copper is the choice. So you can use aluminum or copper wire for the winding, field winding. So next, coming to the interpoles. So interpoles, this will be outside this field, you have this interpole. The thickness of this interpole is small compared to main poles. So here in modern DC machines, interpoles are commutating poles. So here, so interpoles are also called as commutating poles. So this will be used in order to reduce the sparking, are placed in the interpolar region between the main field poles. So here you have this north pole and south pole. These are the main poles, and this is the interpole. Interpole means so here out interpolar region means this is the interpolar region. So in the interpolar region, we are going to have this interpole. So here this is one of the very important. This will be mainly taught to triple students. Though the polarity of the interpole in a DC generator is same as that of the next pole ahead. Next pole ahead. So here, if this is the rotation, what is the next pole ahead? South. So here it is made up of, yeah, we are going to wound the winding to this pole in such a way that it has the polarity. So see here, it has the same polarity as that of the next pole ahead. So next pole ahead is south. So here this is south. Suppose here, if you see this, so for a generator, we are going to take the next pole ahead. Similarly, see here in DC generator, it is same as that of the next pole ahead in the direction of rotation. In DC motor, the polarity of an interpole is opposite to that of the main pole in the direction of the rotation. So here in the here this is a DC motor. So here opposite ahead we have the south pole. Opposite pole must have. This must be north pole. So this will be mainly studied by triple students. So the interpole is generally smaller compared to the main poles. So here smaller, the thickness will be small. Next, the interpole winding is composed of few turns of thick wire, since it is connected series with the armature. So interpoles, see here. Yes, who is that? 106.
So,
Just know about the parts. Okay. Yeah, keep your microphone in mute if you do not have any doubts. So just know about the parts. So interpoles are always connected in series with the armature. Okay, so that the electromotive force is proportional to the armature current. Okay, so here what just know about the function of these interpoles. So here the function of the interpole is it is used to reduce the reactance voltage, which is the main cause of sparking at the commutator. In order to reduce the sparking at the commutator, we are going to use the interpoles. So interpoles are used to reduce the sparking at the commutator by reducing the reactance voltage. So just know about the parts. If you are interested, I will explain in another class. So for you, it is not that much important for the exam. For the exam point of view, it is not that much important. So as I have to complete the syllabus, I will cover the main. First, I will cover the syllabus. Afterwards, we'll take the classes in which you are interested. The choice of the material. The materials used in case of field poles are used for interpoles. So interpoles, the material is same for field poles and interpoles. Next, coming to the rotor. So stator part is completed. Now rotor part. So rotor is a rotating member of a DC machine. So it essentially consists of an armature core. So here in the center we have the armature core. On the armature core you are going to have the armature winding. Is it clear? So just like a induction motor here also. So here you have a armature core. This is the armature core. On the armature core you are going to have the armature conductors. So conductors are placed on the armature. Armature conductors are placed on the armature. So here rotor, it consists of armature core, armature winding, commutator, and brushes. Actually, the brushes are stationary. Brushes will rest on the commutator. Okay, you can take armature core, armature winding, commutator, and brushes. Among these, brushes will be stationary, but they will be resting on the commutator. So commutator will be rotating, armature windings will be rotating as they are mounted on the armature core. Okay, so coming to armature core. So armature core is cylindrical in shape, okay, and is mounted on a shaft. It consists of slots and teeth on its periphery, okay, and the air ducts to permit the airflow through the armature, which serves cooling purpose. Next, functions. So armature core provides house for armature windings. So armature windings are made up of armature conductors. Okay. So here, if you have armature core, then only you can put the armature conductors on the armature core. So to provide a path of low reluctance to the magnetic flux produced by the field winding. So when the here to provide a low path of low reluctance here, so you have the magnetic flux. So to this magnetic flux, it provides a low reluctance path. Now choice of the material. So as it has to provide a low reluctance path to the flux, it is made up of silicon steel. So silicon steel. So here, as it has to provide a low reluctance path to the flux, it is made up of some magnetic material like cast iron or cast steel. It is made up of laminated construction. So here you can see the laminations here. So here these are the laminations. You can see the laminations. So here you can see all the laminations, right? Like this, you can see all the laminations. So here the armature core is made up of laminations. You can see the laminations here. So here these are made up of laminations. So if you view from this side, it will be like this, but it is having more slots. It is having less slots, not this diagram, just view. If you view from the front side here, from this, it will appear like this. So like these sheets, we are going to have, those are called as laminations, and these laminations are put together form a rotor core or armature core. So next, coming to the EMF equation of a DC generator. This is very important. So for the exam, this is very important. Okay, EMF equation of a DC generator. So here generator will be producing the EMF, okay, which is a DC voltage, because DC generator will produce the DC voltage, and we are going to find the expression for the DC voltage. So EMF, there is the EMF equation of a DC generator. Later, phi equal to magnetic flux per pole in Weber. Magnetic flux per pole in Weber. Phi is the magnetic flux per pole, and the units are Weber. Weber means WEBER, Weber. Next, phi is the flux per pole in Weber. Z is equal to total number of armature conductors. There is the total number of armature conductors. P is the number of poles, and A is the number of parallel paths. And you know that number of parallel paths equal to 2 for a wave winding, and the number of parallel paths equal to P for lap winding. And N is the speed of armature, and the units are RPM. So here speed of the armature in RPM. So EG, EMF of the generator. EG is the EMF of generator. So here we are going to find the expression for this EG. So here EG is the EMF of the generator, which is the EMF per parallel path. So here you are going to have the parallel paths. So number of parallel paths equal to 2 for wave winding, number of parallel paths equal to P for lap winding. So the EMF of the generator is the nothing but the EMF per parallel path. So equal voltage for parallel paths. So here, so if you have more number of parallel paths, you can increase the current. Okay. So EG is the EMF of the generator, which is the EMF per parallel path. Next. So here we are going to first step. So first step is we are going to find the magnetic flux cut by one conductor in one revolution of the armature. Magnetic flux. So first this is the first step. We are going to calculate the magnetic flux cut by one conductor in one revolution of the armature. So that I am going to take as d phi. D phi is equal to P phi, where P is the number of poles, phi is the flux per pole. So d phi is the flux cut by one conductor in one revolution of the armature. Okay. So what is the time taken to complete one revolution? That I am going to take as dt. So which is equal to 60 by n second. So here, how you got 60 by n means n is the number of rotations per minute. N is the number of rotations per minute. So here in 1 minute, see here. So here n rotations are completed in 1 minute. Okay, one rotation will be complete here. N rotations are completed in 60 seconds. Okay, n rotations are completed in 1 minute. This can be written as like this: n rotations are completed in 60 seconds. One rotation will be completed in how many seconds? What is the time? So 1 by n into 60, which is equal to 60 by n. So the time taken to complete one revolution is 60 by n second. So here we got d phi and we have dt. So EMF generated per conductor is equal to d phi by dt. So this is according to Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction. So d phi by dt will give EMF generated per conductor. So here substitute these values. D phi is equal to P phi, dt equal to 60 by N. So P phi N by 60 volts. This is the EMF generated by one conductor. Okay. So EMF of the generator Eg is equal to EMF generated per parallel path. So here number of parallel, so here EMF generated per conductor into number of conductors in series per parallel path. So P phi N by 60 into number of conductors in parallel path is equal to Z by A, where A equal to number of parallel paths. See here already I have taken here. So A is equal to number of parallel paths. It is equal to 2 for wave winding. It is equal to P for lap wound. So P for lap winding. Next here. So here number of conductors in series per parallel path is equal to total number of conductors divided by number of parallel paths. Gives this will give this Z by A gives so the number of conductors in series per parallel path. Number of conductors per parallel path is equal to Z by A. So Z is the total number of conductors. Total number of conductors in parallel path is equal to Z by A, where A is the number of parallel paths. Now here, this can be written as Znp by 60A. Phi Znp by 60A. Phi Znp by 60A. So sometimes this can be written like this also. Phi Zn by 60 into P by A. Like this also you can write. So here one advantage by writing like this, if you have a wave winding, A is taken as 2. If you have a lap winding, A is equal to P. P and P gets cancelled. So sometimes it is written like this also. Phi Zn by 60 into P by A. Okay. So is it clear? Can you derive this equation? So very simple derivation. So first you have to know phi is the magnetic flux per pole in Weber. Z is the total number of armature conductors. P is the number of poles. A equal to number of parallel paths. It is equal to 2 for wave winding, equal to P for lap winding. N is the speed of armature in RPM. See here, it is RPM. Speed of the armature in RPM. Next term, Eg is the generated EMF of the generator, which is equal to EMF per parallel path. So here, first step, we are going to take one conductor. So flux cut by one conductor in one revolution of the armature. D phi is equal to P phi. So P is the total number of poles, phi is the flux per pole. D phi gives the flux cut by one conductor in one revolution. So what is the time taken to complete one revolution? So we have n revolutions will be completed in n revolutions will be completed in 60 seconds. One revolution will be completed in 60 by n. The time taken to complete one revolution. So here, the time taken to complete one revolution is 60 by n. So according to Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction, so EMF generated per conductor is given by d phi by dt. EMF generated is given by d phi by dt. So d phi equal to p phi. So d phi equal to p phi, dt equal to 60 by n. So p phi n by 60 volts is the EMF generated per conductor. So here we have to calculate the EMF per parallel path. EMF per parallel path, which is the EMF of the generator. So EMF per parallel path is equal to EMF per conductor into number of conductors in series per parallel path, which is a so here P phi n by 60 into Z by A. So phi Zn P by 60A. Phi Zn P by 60A. So the advantage of writing like this is so phi Zn P by 60A. So here for a lap winding, A equal to P. For a wave winding, A equal to 2. So let us do a problem on this. So all of you try to do this problem. So I will show the answer afterwards. So all of you try to do this one. Calculate the EMF generated by 4-pole wave wound generator having 65 slots with 12 conductors per slot. So rotor is having 65 slots. In each slot we have 12 conductors. So with 12 conductors per slot, when driven at 1200 RPM, the flux per pole is 0.02 Weber. So see here, E is equal to 5ZNP by 60A. So here, you know the P equal to 4, phi equal to 0.02 Weber, N equal to 100 RPM. We have to calculate Z. As it is a wave wound, A equal to 2. A equal to 2, as it is a wave wound. Next, coming to Z, how to calculate Z? So here Z equal to total number of conductors. We have 65 slots and each slot is having 12 conductors. So total number of conductors is equal to 12 into 65. We have to do. So calculate EG. So anyone calculated? Is what is the voltage you got? So if you substitute these values, you are going to get E is equal to 624 volts. Have you got the same answer? Okay, next let us do a problem on this one. So all of you try to do this problem. The armature of a 6-pole, see here, P equal to 600 RPM, lap wound. So these are important for your exam. Okay. So lap wound. Generator has 90 slots. Okay, if each slot has 8 conductors, calculate the flux per pole required to generate an EMF of 288 volts. See here, you know that P equal to 6, as it is a lap wound, A equal to 6. Okay, Z equal to, you have to calculate the total number of conductors, 90 into 8, which is equal to 90 into 8, 720. So E is equal to 5ZNP by 60A. Substitute the values. So phi equal to Eg into 60, you rearrange this one. So here you have to calculate the flux, so which is given by 0.04 Weber. So the units of flux are Weber. So this type of problems will be asked frequently. So next one is the types of DC generators. So here the generators are generally classified according to their method of field excitation. So sometimes this is asked as types of excitations. So the question will be asked like types of DC generators, or they may ask what are the different types of excitations. So in the exam they may ask what are the different types of excitations. So like this also they can ask. So there are two types of DC generators. First one is the separately excited DC generator. Second one is self-excited DC generator. So what is meant by separately excited DC generator? So here separate excitation is provided for the field winding. So here a DC generator whose field magnet winding is supplied from an independent external DC source. Example, a battery, etc., is called a separately excited generator. See here, this is the field winding. You have this field winding on the field poles. So here, if the winding is connected to a DC voltage, separate DC voltage, like battery, then this type of a DC generator is called as separately excited DC generator. So here, this is the armature conductors. Armature EG is the EMF generated by the armature. IA is the armature current. So when you connect a load, IL is the load current which flows through this load. V is the terminal voltage. So V equal to EG minus voltage drop. So that voltage drop is due to armature winding. Armature winding will have some resistance. So there will be some drop. So here V will be equal to EG minus voltage drop in the armature. Next, why I have written IA and IL, we are going to learn. Next here, armature current IA is equal to IL. IA is the current flowing through the armature. Okay. And IL is the current load current. IL is the load current. Current flowing through the load is IL. IA is the current flowing through the armature. So terminal voltage V equal to EG minus IA RA. So RA is armature resistance. RA is armature resistance. So here, so includes the resistance of the armature winding and the resistance of brushes. So this will be less than 1 ohm. So generally this will be negligible. This voltage drop is negligible. Okay. So next, power delivered to the load is V into IA. So voltage into current flowing through this load, VI is the power. So in a DC, we have only V into I. Okay. Voltage into current is the power. So next, about self-excited DC generators. So what is self-excited DC generator? So here, a DC generator is a DC generator whose field magnet winding, that is simply field winding. A DC generator whose field magnet winding is supplied with current from the output of the generator itself is called a self-excited generator. See here, if you use the output of the generator itself as the input for this field winding, it is called as self-excited DC generator. So here we are not using a separate battery for the field winding. So we are using the output of the generator itself. So output of the generator is DC. That DC we are going to connect it to the field winding. This is called as self-excited DC generator. So here a DC generator whose field magnet winding is supplied with current from the output of the generator itself is called a self-excited generator. So here there are three types of self-excited generators depending upon the manner in which the field winding is connected. So they are series generator, shunt generator, compound generator. So if you understand the construction connection, you are going to remember this easily. So first, coming to the series generator, why it is called as series generator? See here, this is the field winding. The field winding is connected in series with the armature. That's why it is called as series generator. So RSC is the resistance of the field winding, series field winding resistance. See here. So in a series generator, the field winding is connected in series with the armature winding, so that whole armature current flows through the field winding as well as the load. So here the current flowing through this field winding and the current flowing through the load will be the same. So here the current flowing through the armature and current flowing through the series field will be the same. So EG is the EMF generated and IA is the armature current. Okay, IA is the total armature current. Next, RSC is the resistance of the field winding. So V is the terminal voltage, IL is the current flowing through the load. Now coming to the relations, let us see the relations between this. So armature current, IA, A stands for armature. Armature current, IA is equal to ISC. ISC is the current flowing through the series field winding, which is equal to IL, which is equal to I. I am taking it as I. See, this is equal to I. Next, terminal voltage. Let us see the terminal voltage. Terminal voltage V is equal to generator voltage minus IA into RA plus RSC. So armature winding will be having some resistance. RA plus RSC is the series field resistance. Series field winding resistance. Okay. Next, power developed in the armature is equal to. So here power developed in armature is equal to Eg into Ia. The power developed in the armature is equal to generated voltage, generated EMF into current. So Eg into Ia. Power delivered to the load is equal to Eg into Ia minus losses. What are the losses? Ia square Ra plus RSC. Ia square Ra plus RSC. Next, which can be written like this also. If you take Ia common, Eg minus Ia into Ra plus RSC. So here Eg minus Ia, here you have Eg minus Ia into Ra plus RSC. It can be replaced with V. V into Ia is the power delivered to the load. So here what is the power delivered to the load is V into IL. We have IL equal to Ia. In like this also you can write. From here also you can write, directly also you can write. So if we don't know V, how to calculate the power delivered to the load? Eg minus, first we have to calculate V. How to calculate V? Eg minus Ia into Ra plus RSC. We are going to get V. That V into IL gives power delivered to the load. IL equal to Ia. In series, if the elements are connected in series, current will be the same. So this is about the series generator. So here the field winding carries whole of load current. The field winding carries whole of load current. So current is more. Okay. It has a few turns of thick wire. Okay. So in quiz paper they may ask this one. It has few turns of thick wire having low resistance. So here the field winding carries whole of the load current. It has a few turns. Why few turns? So here MMF, if you see MMF, what is the formula for MMF? One of you please respond. MMF. So MMF, magnetomotive force, is equal to number of conductors into current flowing through the conductors. Number of turns into current flowing through these turns. Ni. As I is large value, as I is large value, we can reduce the number of turns for getting the required magnetic field. So here it is made up of few turns of thick wire. Why thick wire means more current. Class jarugutundi. Few turns of thick wire having low resistance. Why low resistance? Because V equal to Eg minus Ia into Ra plus RSC. So if you use RSC low value, then you can increase the voltage. If RSC is more, the voltage decreases, terminal voltage decreases. So here, that's why it is made up of low resistance. Okay, series generators are rarely used except for special purpose example as boosters. I will show this diagram also. It is used as voltage boosters. If you connect a series generator in series with a feeder, we are going to increase the voltage. So the main application of series generator is boosters. Boosters means you can write down voltage boosters. Voltage boosters. So series generators are mainly used for voltage boosters. Shunt generator. Coming to shunt generator. So second one is the shunt generator. So here if you see a shunt generator, the field winding is connected in parallel with the armature. The field winding is connected in parallel with the armature, and the resistance of the shunt field winding is RSH. RSH is the resistance of the shunt field winding. Now let us see here. In a shunt generator, the field winding is connected in parallel with the armature winding, so that terminal voltage of the generator is applied across it. So here what is applied, what is the voltage applied to this winding? V. V is the voltage applied to this shunt field winding. Now let us see the currents here. The total armature current is IA. That IA gets splitted into IL and ISH. Okay. So shunt field current ISH equal to V by RSH. V by RSH. Armature current IA. Armature current IA is equal to IL plus ISH. IA is equal to IL plus ISH. IA is, if you take this junction, incoming current is equal to sum of the outgoing currents. IA is equal to IL plus ISH. IL plus ISH. Next, terminal voltage V. V equal to EG minus IARA. V equal to EG minus IARA. Power developed in armature is equal to EG into IA. Power delivered to the load is equal to V into IL. Next, a shunt field winding has many turns of fine wire. Fine wire means thin wire having high resistance. Therefore, only a part of the armature current flows through shunt field winding as the rest flows through the load. So in order to consume, see here, in order to consume less here, if it is made up of high resistance means ISH will be less. Okay, more we can provide more current to the load. Okay, if you provide high resistance, and it is made up of many number of turns. RSH, if you take this shunt field winding, it is made up of more number of turns because ISH is low.
మీరు మాట్లాడే